When my daughter-in-law stood in my kitchen, the kitchen I'd invited her into, the kitchen where I'd cooked countless meals for her family, and said, "My mother would never serve something like this." She actually knows how to cook. I felt something inside me shift, not break, shift. I looked at my son standing behind her, waiting for him to defend me, to say something, anything. But he just looked down at his shoes like a scolded child. That was the moment I realized I'd lost my son to a woman who didn't just want to be part of our family. She wanted to replace me in it. My name is Me, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the people you love most are the ones who will hurt you deepest. And how I learned, finally, to answer back. Let me take you back to where this all started, because betrayal doesn't happen overnight. It grows slowly, like mold behind a wall, until one day you realize the entire structure is rotting from within. I raised my son Marcus as a single mother after his father passed away when he was just 8 years old. 3 years of my life went into making sure that boy had everything he needed. Not everything he wanted, mind you, because I couldn't afford that on a teacher's salary, but everything that mattered: love, support, a home that felt safe. I worked 2 jobs some years, taught summer school most years, and never once complained about the sacrifice because that's what mothers do. We give. Marcus was always a sweet boy, gentle, hearted like his father. He excelled in school, went to college on a partial scholarship. I took out loans to cover the rest, loans I'm still paying off, by the way, and became a junior accountant at a respectable firm downtown. I was so proud of him, so proud. When he graduated, he hugged me tight and whispered, "Thank you, Mom. I couldn't have done this without you." I cried for an hour after he left that day. Happy tears. He met Jessica at a company mixer 3 years ago. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Tall, polished, always dressed like she'd stepped out of a magazine. She worked in marketing at the same firm. When Marcus brought her home to meet me for the first time, I made pot roast, his favorite, and set the table with my good china. The china my own mother had given me, the set I only used for special occasions. Jessica looked around my modest 3-bedroom home, the home I'd worked myself to exhaustion to keep, and I saw something flicker across her face. It was quick, but I caught it. Disappointment, judgment. Looking back now, I should have paid more attention to that moment. But I was so eager to welcome her, so happy that Marcus had found someone, that I brushed it aside. "Your home is cozy," she said, and the pause before that last word was just a beat too long. "Thank you, sweetheart," I replied, determined to make this work. "I hope you like pot roast. Marcus has been asking for it since he was 10 years old." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Actually, I'm trying to get Marcus to eat healthier. Red meat isn't really good for him." That should have been my first clue. Not that she cared about nutrition, that was fine, but that she felt entitled to correct me in my own home, at our first meeting, about my own son. But I laughed it off. "Oh, 1 meal won't hurt," I said. "Everything in moderation, right?" Marcus squeezed her hand and said, "Mom's pot roast is the exception to every rule." At least he said that much. At least back then, he still defended me in small ways. Over the next year, as their relationship grew serious, I noticed other small things. Jessica never asked about my day, my work, my life. When I spoke about my students, I taught 4th grade for 32 years. She'd check her phone or change the subject. When I showed her photo albums of Marcus growing up, she'd glance politely but make comments like, "Oh, that's what kids wore back then," or "You let him have hair that long." Her mother, Patricia, was apparently some kind of superwoman. According to Jessica, Patricia was an executive at a pharmaceutical company, lived in a 5-bedroom house in the suburbs, hosted elaborate dinner parties, volunteered on 3 charity boards, and still found time to make everything from scratch. My mother would never buy store, bought cookies. Jessica mentioned once when I served Chips Ahoy with coffee. She bakes everything herself, says it's more meaningful that way. I smiled through gritted teeth. Well, Some of us work full-time jobs and don't have the luxury of time. My mother works full-time too, Jessica replied coolly. It's about priorities. Marcus jumped in then, trying to smooth things over. Mom's cookies are great, Jess. I grew up on store, bought cookies, and I turned out fine. Did you? Jessica said it like a joke, but there was an edge to it. An edge that made my stomach tighten. Still, I told myself this was normal. New relationships, especially serious ones, came with adjustments. Jessica was just trying to establish her place in Marcus's life. I could be gracious, I could make room for her. The real trouble started when Marcus proposed. He did it at Christmas dinner at my house. I'd insisted they come, wanted to make it special. I'd spent 2 days preparing. Ham, sweet potatoes, green bean casserole, my famous pecan pie. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine from the tree I'd decorated, and I'd even bought new Christmas napkins with little snowflakes on them. Marcus got down on one knee right there in my living room, in front of the fireplace where we'd hung his stocking every year of his childhood. Jessica said yes, of course, and I cried and hugged them both. I'm so happy for you too. I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I meant it. We're thinking a summer wedding, Jessica said, her diamond ring catching the light from the Christmas tree. It was a beautiful ring. Probably cost 3 months of my salary. Small and elegant. Maybe 100 guests. That sounds lovely. I said, let me know how I can help. I've always dreamed of helping plan my son's wedding. Jessica's smile tightened slightly. Actually, my mother and I have already been discussing ideas. She has a lot of experience with event planning, but will definitely keep you informed, keep me informed. Like I was a distant relative instead of the groom's mother. Like my role was to be notified, not included. Mom's going to want to be involved, Marcus said, and I could have kissed him for it. Right, Mom, of course, I said. Whatever you two need. Over the next few months, the wedding planning became a nightmare. Every time I suggested something, a venue, a color scheme, a tradition, Jessica would politely reject it and mention what her mother thought instead. Her mother thought roses were overdone. Her mother thought church weddings were too conventional. Her mother knew a better caterer. Her mother. I tried to talk to Marcus about it privately one evening when he stopped by to pick up some old tax documents. Honey, I feel like I'm being shut out of the wedding planning. This is a big moment for both of us. You're my only child, he sighed, looking uncomfortable. I know, Mom, but Jessica and her mom are really close, and wedding planning is kind of their thing. Can you just go with the flow for me? I have been going with the flow, I said, trying to keep my voice level. But it would be nice to be consulted occasionally, to feel like my opinion matters. Your opinion does matter, he said, but he was already reaching for his keys, already heading toward the door. I'll talk to Jessica, okay? I promise. He didn't talk to Jessica. Or if he did, it changed nothing. The moment that broke me, the moment I'm telling you about at the beginning, happened 3 weeks before the wedding. Jessica had reluctantly agreed to let me host an engagement dinner at my house. Just family, she said. Her parents, her sister, Marcus, her, and me. 7 people. I could do that. I could make that special. I took the day off work, used one of my precious personal days, to prepare. I cleaned the house top to bottom, bought fresh flowers for the table, made sure everything was perfect. I decided to make my special chicken marsala, a dish I'd perfected over the years. It wasn't fancy by fine dining standards, but it was delicious, and I made it with love. Patricia and her husband Donald arrived first, and I could immediately see where Jessica got her. Polish Patricia air, kissed both my cheeks without actually touching me, and surveyed my home with the same look Jessica had given it years before. What a quaint little place, she said. So much character. Quaint character, the words people use when they mean small and outdated. Thank you, I said, determined to be a good hostess. Please make yourselves comfortable. Can I get you something to drink? Do you have sparkling water? Patricia asked. Pellegrino, preferably. I had tap water and a Brita filter. I have iced tea, lemonade. Tap water is fine, she said with a martyred smile, like I'd asked her to drink from a puddle. Dinner started awkwardly and went downhill from there. I served the chicken marsala with roasted asparagus and garlic mashed potatoes. I'd worked hard on the presentation, arranging everything carefully on my mother's china plates. Patricia took one bite and set down her fork. "Interesting," she said. "What did you use in the sauce?" "Marsala wine, mushrooms, butter, and cream," I said. "It's a family recipe. I make mine with a reduction of balsamic and shallots, much lighter, better for digestion." She pushed some chicken around her plate. "But this is nice." Jessica took a bite and made a face. "It's really rich, me. I'm trying to fit into my wedding dress. You look perfect," I said tightly. "One meal isn't going to change that. My mother would never serve something like this," Jessica said, and there was a cruel edge to her voice now, emboldened by her mother's presence. "She actually knows how to cook. Healthy, sophisticated meals. Not this heavy, old-fashioned food." The table went silent. Marcus stared at his plate. Donald cleared his throat uncomfortably. Patricia looked at her daughter with something like pride. I set down my own fork carefully. My hands were shaking. "Excuse me." "Oh, don't take it personally," Jessica said with a little laugh, like I was being overly sensitive. "I just mean that your cooking style is very dated. My mother's been telling me how to update the reception menu so it's more current, more refined." "Jessica," Marcus said quietly finally. "That's not what. I'm just being honest." She looked at him with wide, innocent eyes. "Your mother always says she values honesty." I looked at my son, willing him to defend me, to tell his fiancé that she'd crossed a line, that you don't speak to someone's mother that way in her own home, at her own table, after she's spent an entire day preparing a meal for you. He looked down at his shoes, just like in the story I told you at the beginning, my 31-year-old son reduced to a child who was afraid to upset his bride-to-be. That's when I felt it, that shift inside me, not breaking. I'd been through too much in my life to break over a spoiled young woman's comments, but shifting. A door closing, a decision being made in the deep, quiet place where your true self lives. "I see," I said calmly. I stood up, collected my plate, and walked into the kitchen. I heard murmuring from the dining room. Patricia saying something soothing, Jessica's light laugh, Marcus's low voice, probably apologizing for me being sensitive. I stood at my kitchen sink, looking out the window at the backyard where Marcus used to play as a child, and I felt myself getting very, very calm. It's a strange thing, that kind of calm. It's the calm that comes when you realize you've been disrespected for the last time. When you understand that trying to win people over, trying to be accepted, trying to make yourself smaller so others can feel bigger, all of it has been a waste of your dignity. I walked back to the dining room. "I think it's time for everyone to leave," I said quietly. Patricia looked startled. "I'm sorry. I said it's time to leave. The dinner is over, Mom," Marcus said, standing up. "Come on, don't be like this." "Don't be like what, Marcus?" "Don't be hurt when someone insults me in my own home. Don't expect my only son to defend me." I looked at Jessica. "You are welcome to think whatever you like about my cooking, my home, and my life. But you are not welcome to voice those thoughts at my table. Not anymore. This is ridiculous," Jessica said, looking to her mother for support. "I was just giving feedback, trying to help you improve." "I don't need your help, and I certainly don't need your feedback on a meal you were invited to as a guest." I turned to Marcus. "Honey, I love you, but until you can figure out how to be a son and a fiancé at the same time, I think we need some space." I didn't wait for their response. I went upstairs to my bedroom and closed the door. I heard them leave, voices in the hallway, the front door opening and closing, cars starting. Then silence. I sat on the edge of my bed. in the house I'd worked so hard to keep, and I let myself cry for 10 minutes. Then I stopped, washed my face, and made myself a promise. I was done being small. Marcus called me the next morning. I let it go to voicemail. He called again that afternoon. Voicemail again. By the third call, I picked up. Mom, can we talk about last night? What would you like to talk about, sweetheart? I think maybe you overreacted a little bit. Jessica feels terrible. I had to laugh at that. Jessica feels terrible. That's interesting, because she didn't seem to feel terrible when she was insulting my cooking and comparing me unfavorably to her mother in front of everyone. She was just stressed about the wedding. You know how brides get. No, Marcus, I don't know how brides get because I've never been married. Your father died before we could make it official, remember? But I do know how decent human beings behave, and that wasn't it. Silence on the other end. Then, she wants to apologize. I don't want her apology. I want you to understand what happened. I want you to see that your fiancé treats me like I'm some kind of embarrassment to be managed. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time you stood up for me, Marcus? When's the last time you told her to back off when she makes one of her little comments about my home, my life, my choices? More silence. The kind of silence that speaks volumes. I love you, Mom, but I love her too. I'm trying to build a life with her, and I'm trying to figure out if there's space for me in that life. I said quietly, call me when you have an answer. I hung up before he could respond. The wedding was 3 weeks away. I assumed I was uninvited after the dinner disaster, but 2 weeks before the big day, I received a formal card in the mail. It was one of those expensive, heavy cardstock invitations with calligraphy. Mrs. Me Holland, you are cordially invited to the wedding of, standard wording. No personal note, nothing from Marcus, I called him. Did you want me to come to the wedding, or is this just for show? Of course I want you there, Mom. You're my mother. Then, why did I get a formal invitation in the mail, like I'm some distant cousin? Why didn't you call me yourself? Jessica's handling all the invitations. She's just trying to be organized. Jessica, always Jessica, I'll be there, I said. But I need to know, where am I sitting? Am I being introduced? Do I get to have the mother-son dance, or has Patricia claimed that too? Mom, don't be bitter. I'm not bitter, Marcus. I'm asking practical questions about my role in my only child's wedding. He sighed, that exasperated sigh that children give their parents when they think we're being unreasonable. You're sitting in the third row. Patricia thought it would be better if the immediate family. I am immediate family. If her side and our side were balanced, you'll be sitting with Aunt Carol and Uncle Jim, third row, behind Jessica's extended family, behind people who'd known Marcus for 3 years while I'd known him for 31. And the mother-son dance, another pause, this one longer. We're not doing a traditional mother-son dance. Jessica thought it would be weird since her dad passed away. Her father is alive, Marcus. I met him at the disaster dinner. No, I mean, she thought it would be weird to have a mother-son dance but not a father-daughter dance, so we're just doing our first dance as a couple and then opening it up to everyone. She'd taken that from me too, the one moment I'd dreamed about since Marcus was born. The moment every mother imagines, dancing with her son at his wedding, celebrating the man he's become. I see, I said. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. Mom, please, it's just one day. Can we all just get through it peacefully? Just one day. As if this wedding wasn't the culmination of years of dismissal and disrespect. As if I hadn't already given up so much, been pushed aside so many times. I'll be there, I repeated. Third row, got it. But what I didn't know was that things were about to get even worse. A week before the wedding, my friend Linda, who worked at the same school where I taught, pulled me aside during lunch. I need to talk to you about something. We went to my classroom, closed the door. Linda looked uncomfortable, kept fidgeting with her coffee cup. "What is it?" I asked. "My niece works at the Sterling estate. You know, that fancy event venue downtown." I did know it. It was one of the most expensive venues in the city. I'd assumed they'd picked somewhere more modest, given that Marcus was still paying off student loans and working an entry-level position. "That's where Marcus and Jessica are having their wedding," Linda continued, "and my niece mentioned something that, well, I thought you should know." My stomach dropped. "What?" "The bill for the venue, the catering, the flowers, all of it is going on a credit card, Marcus's credit card. He took out a new card with a $30,000 limit just for the wedding." I stared at her. $30,000. That's just the venue and catering. My niece said Jessica mentioned the dress cost $8,000, and they're going to Bora Bora for 2 weeks for the honeymoon. Linda reached across and squeezed my hand. "I think you should know that Jessica told the wedding planner that her parents couldn't contribute because they're renovating their home, but my niece saw Patricia there last week wearing head-to-toe designer clothes and talking about her recent trip to Napa Valley. The picture was becoming clearer, and it was ugly. Marcus never mentioned any of this to me." I said slowly. "Sweetie, I don't think Marcus is making these decisions. I think they're being made for him." After Linda left, I sat in my empty classroom for a long time. Marcus was going into debt, massive debt, for a wedding that Jessica wanted. For a wedding where his own mother was seated in the 3rd row like an afterthought. For a life with a woman who clearly had no respect for where he came from or what his mother had sacrificed. How could I have been so blind? I thought back over the past 3 years. Every time I'd offered to help with expenses, "Mom, we're fine." Every time I'd suggested he come over for dinner, "Jessica already has plans for us." Every time I'd try to spend time with my son alone, "Jessica feels left out when it's just the 2 of us." This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't wedding stress or a daughter-in-law trying to find her place. This was systematic. This was calculated. Jessica was isolating Marcus from me, putting him in debt to bind him to her, and rewriting the narrative of his life so that she and her perfect mother were the stars and I was just the woman who'd raised him, the embarrassing, old-fashioned woman with the small house and the store, bought cookies. That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I drove past Marcus's apartment, the one he shared with Jessica, in a trendy neighborhood that I knew was beyond his means. Their car was in the parking lot, but I didn't stop. I wasn't there to visit. I was there to think. I sat in my car across the street and watched the lights on in their 2nd-floor window. I thought about the little boy who used to crawl into bed with me during thunderstorms, the teenager who'd thanked me tearfully at his high school graduation, the young man who'd promised he'd always take care of me when I got older. Where had that person gone? Or had he ever really existed? Maybe I'd created a version of my son that wasn't real, a version who would always put me first, who would remember what I'd sacrificed, who would shield me from anyone who tried to hurt me. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I'd loved him so much that I'd failed to teach him to stand up for the people who stood up for him. Or maybe Jessica was just that good at manipulation. I started my car and drove to the one place I knew I'd get honest advice, my older sister Pauline's house. Pauline was 10 years my senior and had raised 4 kids with her husband Raymond. She was tough, tougher than me, and she'd never been afraid to tell me the truth even when it hurt. I told her everything over coffee at her kitchen table. The dinner, the wedding arrangements, the debt, all of it. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she looked at me with a mixture of sympathy and frustration. How long have you been letting this girl walk all over you?" "I haven't been letting her." "Yes, you have. You've been so desperate for Marcus to be happy, so scared of losing him, that you've tolerated behavior you would never accept from anyone else." "What am I supposed to do? He's my son. She's going to be his wife. And you're going to be his mother forever. but not if you keep playing this game by their rules. Pauline leaned forward. You raised that boy by yourself. You worked yourself half to death to give him opportunities, and now he's letting some entitled princess treat you like hired help. It's time you reminded him, and her, who you are. How? I don't know yet, but the first step is stopping this wedding. I looked at her, shocked. I can't stop the wedding. Why not? If Marcus is going $30,000 into debt for a woman who treats his mother like garbage, someone needs to wake him up before he ruins his life. She took my hand. I know you don't want to be the bad guy, but sometimes love means being willing to be hated in the short term to save someone in the long term. I drove home that night with Pauline's words echoing in my head. Could I really try to stop the wedding? What would that make me? The interfering mother-in-law from every bad sitcom, the bitter woman who couldn't let her son go. But this wasn't about not letting go. This was about watching someone I loved make a terrible mistake and refusing to stay silent. I made a decision. I would try one more time to reach Marcus. One more conversation, completely honest, with no holding back. And if he chose Jessica anyway, if he went into that marriage with full knowledge of what he was sacrificing and who he was becoming, then I would step back. I would let him go. But I wouldn't let him say I never told him the truth. The next morning, I called Marcus. I need to see you, alone. It's important. Mom, I'm really busy with wedding prep. Marcus David Holland. I need to see you today, please. The use of his full name, something I rarely did, must have gotten through to him. Okay, I can come by after work. He arrived at 6:30, still in his work clothes, looking tired and stressed. I made him sit down at the kitchen table, poured him a glass of iced tea, and sat across from him. I need you to really hear what I'm about to say. Not defend Jessica, not make excuses, not shut down. Just listen. Can you do that for me? He nodded, wary. I know about the debt. I know you took out a credit card for $30,000 to pay for this wedding. I know Jessica's family isn't contributing despite having the money. I know you're planning an expensive honeymoon you can't afford. I held up my hand when he started to speak. Let me finish. I took a breath. Marcus, I'm not telling you this to be controlling or to ruin your happiness. I'm telling you because I love you, and I'm watching you sacrifice your financial future for a woman who doesn't respect the person who raised you. That dinner wasn't an isolated incident. It was a pattern. Jessica has been systematically pushing me out of your life, and you've been letting her. She's not. I'm not finished. My voice was firm now, stronger than I'd felt in months. I have sat in silence while she compared me to her mother and found me lacking. I have accepted being uninvited from wedding planning. I have tolerated being seated in the third row like a distant relative. I have watched you choose her comfort over my dignity time and time again. And I have asked myself if I'm being unreasonable, if I'm being jealous, if I'm being the difficult mother-in-law. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I kept going. And the answer is no. I'm not being unreasonable. I'm being disrespected, and you're allowing it. The question I need you to answer is this the man you want to be? Is this the life you want? Build one where your wife treats your mother like an embarrassment and you go into crushing debt to please her, because if it is Marcus, then you need to tell me now. I will step back. I will show up when invited and keep my mouth shut and play whatever small role I'm assigned. But I need you to look me in the eye and tell me that this is what you want. Marcus sat there for a long time, looking at his hands. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. I don't know what to do. What do you mean? I mean, I love her, Mom. I really love her, but you're right about a lot of it. She does compare you to her mother. And the wedding, it's more than I wanted to spend. I told her we should do something smaller, but she said this was her dream wedding, and she'd been planning it since she was a little girl. And how could I take that away from her? So you took away your financial security instead. He flinched. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. It is bad, honey. And it's going to get worse. What happens when she wants the big house like her mother's, the luxury cars? The exotic vacations. Are you going to go into debt for all of that too? I thought once we were married, once she felt secure, she'd relax. She'd be less competitive with you. I reached across and took his hand. Marcus, people don't change after marriage. They become more of what they already are. If Jessica is competitive and critical now, she's going to be that way as your wife. And if you can't stand up to her now, you won't be able to stand up to her then. I don't want to lose her, and I don't want to lose you. But that's what's happening. I'm losing my son one day at a time, and it's breaking my heart. We sat there in silence. Finally, Marcus said, "Can I think about this? I'm not going to cancel the wedding, but maybe I can talk to Jessica, try to set some boundaries. It wasn't what I wanted to hear, but it was something. Okay." "But Marcus, if you talk to her and nothing changes, if she dismisses your concerns or turns this around on you, you need to really think about whether this is the partner you want for life." He nodded, squeezed my hand, and left. I wanted to feel hopeful after that conversation. I really did. But something in my gut told me that Jessica wasn't going to take kindly to Marcus suddenly growing a backbone. And I was right. 2 days later, 5 days before the wedding, I got a call from Marcus. He sounded defeated before he even spoke. "I talked to Jessica, and she said you're trying to ruin our wedding. She said you've always been jealous of her relationship with her mother and you're taking it out on her. She said if I can't set boundaries with you, she's not sure she can marry me." There it was, the ultimatum. Choose me or choose your mother. And what did you say? I said I'd handle it. I'd make sure you weren't a problem anymore. A problem? I'd become a problem to my own son. I see, I said, and my voice was ice now, pure ice. "Well, Marcus, you handle it however you need to, but let me be very clear, I am not the problem. Your fiancé's lack of respect is the problem. Your inability to stand up for yourself and people who love you is the problem. But if you want to make me the villain in this story, go ahead. I'm done trying to convince you otherwise. Mom, I'll be at your wedding because I promised I would be. I'll sit in the 3rd row and smile and be gracious, but don't expect me to pretend everything is fine. And don't be surprised when this marriage falls apart because it's built on debt and disrespect and a man who doesn't know how to say no." I hung up before he could respond. That's when I noticed something that changed everything. I was cleaning out my file cabinet, that evening stress cleaning, really, needing something to do with my hands when I came across some old financial documents. Tax returns from the years when Marcus was in college, student loan paperwork, and tucked in the back, a folder I'd nearly forgotten about, his father's life insurance policy. When Marcus's father died, there had been a small life insurance policy $50,000. I'd put it in trust for Marcus to be given to him when he turned 30 or got married, whichever came first. It was meant to help him start his life, buy a house maybe, have a financial cushion. Marcus's 30th birthday had been last year. He'd never asked about the money, and in the chaos of the engagement and wedding planning, I'd honestly forgotten about it. The trust terms stated that the money would transfer to him automatically on his wedding day. In 5 days, Jessica would legally become his wife, and they'd have access to $50,000 that would immediately go toward paying off the wedding debt, or more likely, toward whatever other extravagant plans Jessica had. I sat there staring at the paperwork. Legally, ethically, there was nothing I could do. The money was Marcus's. It had always been his. His father had left it for him, but his father had also loved me, had protected me, had wanted his son to be a good man who treated people, especially his mother, with respect. If he were alive now, what would he think about Marcus going into debt for a woman who insulted me in my own home? What would he think about his son choosing that woman over his mother? I pulled out my phone and called the trust company first thing the next morning. "This is me, Holland. I'm the trustee on account number. I read off the number. I need to know about the terms of disbursement." The representative pulled up the account. Yes, Mrs. Holland, the funds are set to transfer to Marcus David Holland upon his marriage, which we have on file as occurring in 4 days. The transfer is automatic unless you, as trustee, file an objection. An objection? Yes, means as preparation trustee. You have the right to delay disbursement if you believe it's not in the beneficiary's best interest. You'd need to provide reasoning, and there would be a review process. But it can't be done? My heart started pounding. How long would that delay it? Usually 60 to 90 days for the review, sometimes longer if there are complications. 60 to 90 days. Long enough for Marcus to either work through his issues with Jessica or realize what he was getting into. Long enough for him to have to face his wedding debt without a magical bailout. Long enough for reality to set in. Little did they know I was 3 steps ahead. That afternoon, I sat down and wrote out my reasoning for the trust company. I kept it factual. People didn't argue about fame. I outlined Marcus's debt, Jessica's family's refusal to contribute despite having means, the pattern of financial irresponsibility, and my concern that the money would be used to enable further debt, rather than build a stable future. I included copies of the credit card statement I'd obtained. Marcus was still listed on my family cell phone plan, and when I'd logged in to check his phone upgrade options, I'd seen the text alert. About the credit card charges, I wasn't proud of that, but I wasn't ashamed either. I overnighted the documents to the trust company with a request for expedited review. Then I did something else. I called a lawyer. I didn't have money for a fancy attorney, but I had a former student whose mother was a family law attorney. I'd helped her son get into a special reading program when he was struggling in 4th grade, and she'd always told me if I ever needed anything to call. So I called. Mrs. Holland, what a surprise. What can I do for you? I explained the situation, not everything, just the relevant parts. Marcus's debt, his controlling fiancé, my concerns about his financial future. I've delayed the trust disbursement, I told her, but I want to make sure I'm protected legally. Can Jessica come after me for this? Can Marcus? She thought for a moment. As trustee, you have a fiduciary duty to act in the beneficiary's best interest. If you genuinely believe that releasing the funds now would cause financial harm, you're within your rights to delay. However, Marcus could challenge it. He could hire his own lawyer and argue that he's an adult capable of making his own financial decisions. But that would take time, wouldn't it? Months. At least, and it would cost him legal fees he doesn't have. She paused. Mrs. Holland, can I speak candidly? Please. This is going to blow up your relationship with your son, at least in the short term. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Marcus looking at his shoes while Jessica insulted me. I thought about the 3rd row seating. I thought about being called a problem. Yes, I said, I'm prepared. The wedding was in 3 days when I got the call I'd been expecting. What did you do? Marcus's voice was shaking with anger. The bank called and said the trust transfer was frozen. They said you filed an objection. I did. How could you? That money is mine. Dad left it for me. Dad left it for you to start your life, not to bail you out of bad decisions, and right now that's what it would be. A bailout that would let you and Jessica avoid facing the consequences of overspending. You're trying to control me. You're trying to punish me for getting married. I'm trying to protect you from making a mistake you'll spend years recovering from. Marcus, you're $30,000 in debt for a wedding. What happens in 5 years when you're still paying it off and Jessica wants something else you can't afford? That's my problem, not yours. You're my son. Your problems are my problems. That's what being a mother means. Not anymore. His voice went cold. You're not invited to the wedding. My heart stopped. Marcus. I mean it. Jessica said you'd pull something like this, and I didn't believe her. But she was right. You're jealous and controlling, and I don't want you there. Marcus, please don't do this. Let's talk in person. There's nothing to talk about. Lose my number, Mom. I'm done. The line went dead. I stood in my kitchen, phone in my hand, and felt like the floor had opened up beneath me. I'd pushed too hard. I'd lost him, My only child, my son, the person I'd given everything for, gone. I sank into a chair and put my head in my hands. Had I made a terrible mistake? Should I have just let him make his own choices, supported him regardless, played the role I'd been assigned? But then I thought about the next 30 years. Watching Marcus struggle with debt, watching Jessica control him and isolate him further, watching my grandchildren. If I was even allowed to know them grow up thinking their grandmother was villain, no. If I was going to lose my son either way, I'd lose him while standing up for what was right. The next morning, I received an email from Jessica. I think it's important we communicate directly since Marcus is too upset to deal with you right now. Your actions have shown your true colors. You're a bitter, jealous woman who can't stand to see her son happy with someone else. My mother warned me about mothers-in-law like you, the ones who see their sons as surrogate husbands and can't let them grow up. ***, the wedding will go on without you, which is honestly a relief. We don't need your negativity on our special day. And just so you know, Marcus is contacting a lawyer about the trust money. You're going to lose, and you're going to look petty and controlling when you do. ***, Marcus and I will be building our life together without your interference. Don't expect to hear from us again. Jessica ***. I read it 3 times. Each time I felt a little less hurt and a little more angry. No, not angry, focused. Jessica had made a crucial mistake. She'd shown me exactly who she was, someone who saw this as a war and was determined to win. Someone who would turn my son against me completely if given the chance. But what Jessica didn't understand was that I'd been fighting battles long before she was born. I'd fought insurance companies when Marcus's father died. I'd fought school districts for better resources for my students. I'd fought my own exhaustion and despair to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. This was just another battle. And I wasn't done fighting yet. I forwarded Jessica's email to my attorney friend. Documentation of character, I wrote, might be useful. Then I made one more call to Patricia, Jessica's mother. I got her number from the engagement party invitation that had listed both families' contact information. Hello, Patricia, this is me, Holland. We need to talk. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Your daughter sent me an email that was frankly abusive. I've been nothing but welcoming to her, and in return I've been insulted, excluded, and now completely cut off from my own son. I think it's mothers. We should have a conversation about what kind of behavior we're modeling for our children. There was a pause. Then, Jessica told me you're trying to sabotage the wedding. I delayed a trust disbursement because Marcus is going into crushing debt for your daughter's dream wedding, and your family isn't contributing a dime despite having the means. That's not sabotage. That's intervention. How dare you, how dare you? I interrupted, and my voice had steel in it now. You've raised a daughter who thinks she's entitled to everything she wants, no matter the cost to other people. You've stood by while she treated me with contempt, and now you're surprised that I'm not rolling over and playing the convenient scapegoat. This conversation is over. No, it's not, because here's what's going to happen. Your daughter is going to spend the next several years making my son miserable with her demands and her debts and her constant comparisons. And when it all falls apart, and it will fall apart, I'm going to be here. I'm going to help Marcus pick up the pieces, and you and Jessica are going to be the ones who are forgotten. I hung up before she could respond. The wedding was tomorrow. I wasn't invited. My son wasn't speaking to me. I'd blown up my relationship with the only family I had left, and for what? A point, pride, no, for the truth, for the hope that someday Marcus would look back and understand why I'd done what I'd done. Pauline came over that evening with wine and takeout. We sat on my back porch watching the sunset. You did the right thing, she said. Then why does it feel so awful? Because love is complicated. Because you're a mother, and mothers would rather hurt themselves than hurt their children. But me, you didn't hurt Marcus. You tried to save him from hurting himself. There's a difference. He doesn't see it that way. Not yet, but he will. When the wedding high wears off and the bills come due, and Jessica's true nature fully reveals itself, he'll remember that his mother tried to warn him. He'll remember that you loved him enough to be the bad guy. And if he doesn't, what if this is it? What if I never see him again? Pauline took my hand. Then you'll survive the same way you survived when his father died, the same way you survived 20+ years of single parenting. You're stronger than you think me, you always have been. The morning of the wedding, I woke up early. I'd barely slept. Part of me wanted to show up anyway, make a scene, force Marcus to look at me and acknowledge what he was doing. But that wasn't who I was. I'd said what I needed to say. I'd done what I could do. The rest was up to Marcus. I spent the day cleaning again. Stress cleaning was becoming my default, and trying not to think about what was happening at the Sterling estate. The ceremony was at 4 o'clock. By now, guests would be arriving. Jessica would be getting into her $8,000 dress. Marcus would be standing at the altar, probably nervous, probably wondering if I'd show up despite being uninvited. At 4:15, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Me, it's Donald, Jessica's stepfather. Hello, Donald. I had no idea why he was calling. I'm at the wedding. Listen, I needed to tell you something. Jessica and Patricia don't know I'm making this call. Okay? I overheard them talking this morning while getting ready. Jessica was laughing about how she'd finally gotten rid of you and how Marcus was completely under control now. Patricia was telling her she did the right thing, that mothers-in-law are always competition, and she needed to establish dominance early. I closed my eyes. Hearing it confirmed was somehow worse than suspecting it. I'm sorry, Donald continued. I know I should have spoken up sooner, but Patricia, she's very strong-willed, and it's easier to go along with her. But after I met you at that dinner, I thought you seemed like a kind woman. And what they're doing to you isn't right. Thank you for telling me. There's more. Jessica told Marcus that if he reconciles with you, she'll leave him. She's making it a condition of the marriage, complete separation from you or no marriage. So there it was. The final ultimatum, the final proof of who Jessica really was. Marcus doesn't know I'm calling you, Donald said. But I thought you should know what you're really dealing with. I'm sorry I don't have better news. After he hung up, I sat very still. Everything was about to change, and they had no idea it was coming. At 6:00 p.m., I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was a photo, Marcus and Jessica at their reception, cutting the cake. They looked happy. Marcus was laughing at something Jessica said. She looked triumphant. The message below the photo said, *thanks for the money, me. Oh wait, we didn't get it, did we? Good thing Marcus's credit card had enough limit for the honeymoon too. See you never. J*, she'd sent it from someone else's phone, so I couldn't block her. She wanted me to know she'd won. She wanted me to feel the defeat. Instead, I felt something else, certainty. I forwarded the text to my attorney friend with a message. Does this count as harassment? She responded immediately. Potentially. Save everything, you might need it. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have done, but I was past caring. I logged into the family phone account again. Marcus was still on my plan. We'd never gotten around to separating it. I pulled up his recent texts. What I saw made my blood run cold. Messages from Jessica to Marcus over the past 3 months. Your mom is so embarrassing. We need to limit contact. Don't tell your mother about the costs. She'll just judge us. A third row is generous. I wanted her in the back. The trust money is ours. Don't let her control you. If you choose your mother over me, this engagement is off. And Marcus's responses. I know. I'll handle it. You're right. I won't tell her. Whatever you think is best. Please don't say that. I love you. Asterisk my son had been manipulated, systematically and deliberately. Jessica hadn't just been rude or thoughtless. She'd been strategic. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to my attorney friend. Then I sent them to Pauline with a message. Asterisk, this is what we're really dealing with. Asterisk, Pauline called immediately. Me, this is textbook emotional abuse. Financial abuse too, if you look at the debt situation. I know. What are you going to do? I'm going to wait. They're leaving for their honeymoon tomorrow. When they get back, reality is going to hit hard. The bills will come due. The trust money won't be available, and Marcus is going to have to choose whether he wants to spend the rest of his life being controlled by someone who treats him like a puppet. And if he chooses her, then at least I'll know I tried. But Pauline, I don't think he will. I think he's scared right now, but scared people eventually get angry, and angry people eventually find their courage. 3 weeks later, 2 weeks after Marcus and Jessica returned from Bora Bora, my doorbell rang. It was Marcus. He looked terrible, thinner, dark circles under his eyes, his usual neat appearance rumpled and tired. Can I come in? I stepped aside without a word. We went to the kitchen. We always ended up in the kitchen, and I made coffee. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Marcus spoke. The credit card bill came, and $43,000. The wedding went over budget, and Jessica added expenses on the honeymoon without telling me. I can barely make the minimum payment and the interest. He put his head in his hands. I don't know what to do. Have you talked to Jessica about it? She said I'm being dramatic, that we can just pay the minimum for a while. She doesn't understand that we'll be paying this off for years, decades maybe. I sipped my coffee and waited. I got notice from the trust company. He continued, about your objection. They laid out all your reasoning, the debt, the pattern of spending, Jessica's family not contributing. He looked up at me. Why didn't you just tell me all this directly? I tried to, honey, multiple times. You didn't want to hear it. I know, God, I know. Tears were streaming down his face now. She's changed since the wedding. Or maybe she hasn't changed. Maybe this is who she always was and I just didn't want to see it. She's controlling, Mom. Everything has to be her way. When I said we needed to cut back on expenses, she said I was trying to punish her. When I said I wanted to see you, she threatened to leave. I know, Donald told me. Marcus looked shocked. Jessica's stepdad. He called me the day of your wedding, told me what Jessica and Patricia said about getting rid of me and keeping you under control. Jesus, Marcus wiped his eyes. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry for everything, for not standing up for you, for letting her treat you that way, for uninviting you to my own wedding. You were just trying to help me, and I treated you like you were the enemy. You weren't entirely wrong to be angry about the trust money. That was a big decision I made without consulting you. But you were right to make it. If Jessica had gotten that $50,000, it would already be gone. She's been looking at houses this week, houses we absolutely cannot afford. She thinks because we don't have a real down payment yet, we should wait until the trust money comes through. He laughed bitterly. She's spending money we don't have on a future we can't afford. What are you going to do? I don't know. I love her, Mom, or I thought I did, but I can't live like this. I can't be in a marriage where I'm not allowed to have a relationship with my own mother, where I'm going into debt I can't handle for a lifestyle I never wanted, where every decision is already made for me. I reached across and took his hand. You know, I'll support whatever choice you make, but Marcus, it's only been 3 weeks since you got married. If it's this bad already, it's going to get worse, I know. He looked at me with heartbreak in his eyes. I made such a huge mistake, didn't I? Over the next few weeks, I watched my son come to terms with his reality. He started seeing a therapist. I helped him pay for it, since Jessica refused to acknowledge there was any problem. The therapist started using words like emotional manipulation and financial abuse and isolation tactics. Jessica, meanwhile, doubled down. When Marcus suggested couples counseling, she refused, saying he was the one with problems, not her. When he tried to talk about the debt, she accused him of ruining her newlywed bliss. When he mentioned wanting to see me, she gave him the silent treatment for 3 days. It came to a head 6 weeks after the wedding. Marcus came to my house on a Tuesday evening unannounced. I filed for separation. I just stared at him. What? I filed for legal separation this morning. I talked to a lawyer, your friend's mom, actually. She's helping me. Given that we've been married less than 2 months and there are no shared assets, besides debt, it should be relatively straightforward. Marcus, are you sure? This is a huge decision. I'm sure. He looked more certain than I'd seen him in years. I can't do this, Mom. I can't spend the rest of my life like this. The lawyer said that given the timeline and the circumstances, I might even be able to get the marriage annulled, prove that Jessica misrepresented herself, that the marriage was based on false pretenses. How did Jessica react? I haven't told her yet. She's at her mother's for the night. I'm going to tell her tomorrow when she gets back. The lawyer said to have the papers ready to serve, to do it officially. She's going to be furious. I know, but Mom, I'm done caring. I'm done walking on eggshells. I'm done choosing her feelings over my own sanity. I hugged him tight, and for the first time in months he hugged me back like he meant it. The next day, Marcus served Jessica with separation papers. According to what he told me later, her reaction was explosive. She called him every name in the book. She said he was weak, pathetic, controlled by his overbearing mother. She said she'd take him for everything he had, which was laughable given that everything he had was massive debt. She called Patricia, who threatened to sue me for what exactly was never made clear. She posted vague, martyred messages on social media about betrayal and fake people. But the thing about people like Jessica is that they're only powerful when you give them power. The moment Marcus stopped caring about her approval, stopped fearing her anger, stopped trying to please her, she had nothing. The lawyer Marcus hired was sharp and thorough. She documented everything: the debt, the text messages obtained legally through discovery, the isolation tactics, Patricia and Jessica's conversation that Donald testified to. She built a case that Jessica had entered the marriage with financial exploitation in mind, that she deliberately isolated Marcus from his family, that the relationship was fundamentally based on control rather than partnership. 8 weeks after the separation filing, the annulment was granted. The marriage of Marcus Holland and Jessica Reynolds was legally declared void, as if it had never happened. The debt was another matter. Marcus was still responsible for the credit card charges, but the lawyer negotiated with the credit card company to reduce the interest rate and set up a payment plan. I released the trust money $50,000, which Marcus used to pay off half the debt immediately. The rest he'd be paying off for about 3 years, but it was manageable now. A painful lesson, but not a life-destroying one. Jessica tried to fight it, of course. She hired her own lawyer and contested the annulment, claiming she'd been a devoted wife who'd been abandoned. But when confronted with the text messages, the financial documentation, and Donald's testimony about the getting rid of his mother conversation, her case fell apart. Even her own lawyer advised her to accept the annulment and move on. The last I heard, Jessica had moved back in with her parents and was telling everyone who'd listened that Marcus was gay and had used her as a cover, which was so absurd that even her friends stopped believing her stories. Patricia tried to salvage her daughter's reputation by mouthing Marcus and me around town, but most people who knew us saw through it. Donald, to his credit, quietly divorced Patricia 6 months later. He sent me a card that said simply, "I'm sorry I didn't stand up sooner. You deserved better, and so did Marcus." It's been a year now since the wedding that almost destroyed my relationship with my son. Marcus lives in a modest one-bedroom apartment downtown, drives a sensible used car, and has a budget he actually sticks to. He's in therapy weekly, working through the damage Jessica did to his confidence and his ability to trust. but he's healing. I can see it in the way he laughs more easily now, the way he makes decisions without second, guessing himself constantly, the way he started dating again slowly, carefully, but with hope. He comes over for dinner every Sunday. We cook together now, something we never did when he was growing up because I was always too busy, too tired. Last week, he made his father's favorite lasagna from memory, and we laughed about how he'd forgotten to add garlic and we had to improvise. You know what Jessica used to say? He told me while we were cooking. She'd say your food was peasant cooking, that it was unsophisticated, and what do you think? I think it's home. I think it's love. I think I was an idiot for not appreciating it sooner. My sister Pauline has been a constant support to both of us. She told Marcus, more bluntly than I ever could, that he'd broken his mother's heart, and it was his job to earn back her trust. He took it seriously. He hasn't missed a Sunday dinner in 8 months. He calls me twice a week just to check in. He sent me flowers on Mother's Day with a card that said, "I'm sorry I forgot who you were for a while. I won't forget again." The trust money situation actually brought us closer in the end. Marcus understood, once the shock wore off, that I'd done the right thing. "You saved me from making it so much worse," he said. "If I'd had that 50,000, Jessica and I would have bought a house I couldn't afford, and I'd be trapped for years." There are still hard moments. Sometimes Marcus blames himself for not seeing who Jessica was sooner. Sometimes I blame myself for not speaking up more forcefully from the beginning. But we're learning together that love sometimes means making hard choices, that protecting someone you love might mean they hate you temporarily, that the long view matters more than the short-term peace. I ran into Patricia once at the grocery store. She looked right through me like I didn't exist. I didn't care. Her opinion of me never mattered. What mattered was that my son was free, healing, and back in my life. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Jessica got engaged again, quickly, to a man with family money. I felt sorry for him, whoever he was, but that wasn't my concern anymore. Marcus's chapter with Jessica was closed, and we'd both moved on. Sometimes I think about that dinner, the one where Jessica said her mother was better than me, where Marcus looked at his shoes instead of defending me. It was the worst moment of my life in many ways, but it was also the moment I found my backbone. For too long, I'd believed that being a good mother meant being accommodating, meant accepting whatever my child chose, supporting whatever relationship he was in, staying quiet to keep the peace. But that night, I learned that sometimes being a good mother means being strong enough to risk everything, including your relationship with your child, to protect them from themselves. I learned that respect isn't optional in families, that blood doesn't give anyone the right to treat you as less than, that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. I learned that manipulation thrives in silence, that Jessica had power over Marcus only because neither of us was willing to confront her behavior directly. Once we started saying the quiet parts out loud, once we named what she was doing, her power evaporated. Most importantly, I learned that my son's love was worth fighting for. Not in the sense of fighting against Jessica, but fighting for Marcus's ability to see clearly, to choose freely, to build a life based on genuine partnership rather than control. If you're listening to this and you see yourself in my story, whether you're the mother being pushed aside or the son being controlled or even the daughter-in-law who's behaving badly, I want you to know something. It's never too late to change the story. If you're being disrespected in your own family, speak up. Stand up. You deserve dignity. You deserve to be treated with kindness by the people you've loved and sacrificed for. Don't let anyone tell you that your feelings don't matter, that you're being too sensitive, that you should just accept poor treatment for the sake of peace. That's not peace, that's surrender. If you're the one doing the controlling, the manipulating, the isolating, stop. Look at what you're really building, a relationship based on fear and obligation, not love. That foundation will crumble eventually, and you'll be left alone, wondering why no one wants to be around you. And if you're caught in the middle, like Marcus was, I know it's hard. I know you love both people and you want everyone to get along. But you can't sacrifice one person's dignity for another person's ego. You can't enable mistreatment because confrontation is uncomfortable. At some point, you have to choose what kind of person you want to be. Someone who stands up for what's right, or someone who looks at their shoes. My name is Me, and this is a story about how I learned to answer back when someone told me I wasn't good enough. About how I learned that my voice mattered, my boundaries mattered, my role in my son's life mattered. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever had to make a hard choice to protect someone you love? Remember, every story has a lesson, and yours might be just beginning. Stand strong, speak your truth, and never let anyone make you feel small in your own life. This is Me signing off. Take care of yourselves out there.